Welcome, everyone, to Soul and Science. Today, we're going to talk to you about our relationship with our purpose in life, with a focus on our virtues and our inner spirit. And we have with us, as always, Ardaas ji. So, Ardaas ji, what to you is the meaning of purpose? Since we always start with the meaning of the particular word that we're actually working with. So, what would you say purpose means to you?
Oh dear, I haven't prepared a definition for today. But hello everyone and hello Satseva. And it's a joy to have these conversations and to do some sort of brainstorming slash reflection slash meditation on different words. And purpose of life, I would say that's possibly one of the most important aspects to consider, especially as a man. I would say more as a man than as a woman. And that may be a little bit surprising, but in my experience as a consultant and talking about these topics in different workshops and courses, and every time we talk about purpose, I've seen so many times women feeling fulfilled already, even, being 40 years old or 50 years old and feeling fulfilled by what they have already accomplished in their life, especially having had children. So um, uh, you know, last week we talked about this exercise. I suggested an exercise of if you were in the day before, in your deathbed, and what would have to happen or what would you have to do to be able to go in peace. And when I ask this question to women who already have children, very often they say, I am fine. I can go in peace. I've fulfilled my purpose, especially if the children are adults already, of course. If they are children, they want to stay along, no? But if the children grew up and they are already adults and they feel fulfilled. Now, I have never seen a man say that, like
Mm.
they just feel fulfilled because they had children. And somehow, for men especially, and there might be something else behind, there has to be a purpose and there has to be some form of objective in some way. It doesn't have to be an objective, a material objective that you can accomplish. That's something that you can say, yes, I did that. But it has to be, am I satisfying my purpose in my life? Am I somehow standing up to be who I was meant to be, satisfying my destiny in some way? So I don't have the definition for purpose, but it would be, what is the thing that I am designed to become? No, the greatest possible me that I can become. Yeah, and am I aligned with that? And again, it doesn't have to be, I will become this, and that, like titles or boxes that you can fulfill and tick, but it could be like, yes, I served in the best way that I could, and I put all the gifts that I felt in my life to serve in this path towards this destiny, so I feel my life fulfilled. No, some sort of like that. Do you have
Mm.
a definition?
Yes. So I
Go
looked at
ahead.
it, and it comes from the Latin word called proponere, and it means to propose. And it was first recorded in the 14th century. But if we break it down further, the intent is to intend. So purpose is to intend, to propose, to have an intention or an aim. It is the reason behind why I do what I do. And that's what I found was the origin of the word of purpose.
I wonder this proponere, because ponere is to put something, to put
Mm,
it, and pro is like before, right?
yeah.
Or for something. So I wonder if this purpose is something that we establish or is something that is already written and we have to discover it. This is just a reflection that it came to me right now. But when you are connecting it to intentions,
Mhm.
one warning comes to me, which is that there is this saying, the road to hell is paved with good intentions.
Mm-hmm.
And how many people, how many times have we messed up with very good intentions, but we create lots of trouble?
Mm-hmm.
So what would that mean, intentions in relationship to the purpose? I wonder about that.
Um, I think if I don't know the answer to that in all honesty. I think it's a question to be reflected upon and pondered, like you rightly said. There is that saying. But the question that stays with me is how much of awareness do we have of the intention? We may believe that that is the intention, but is that really what the truth is? And where is the intention coming from? And if the intention is, I don't think there is a good and a bad intention, but because that brings it into very clear black and white, and there is a lot of gray in all of us. There is all of that to really able to identify where that intent is coming from. If the intent is in the mind, or is that really coming from a place of authenticity? um, I think that may be something to really think about when we think of the purpose itself. Because in psychology, we've been really been asking this question. We talked about Viktor Frankl last time, right? And he talked about the search for meaning and purpose in one's life. And how so many people come in through the door asking me, what is the purpose of life? Why are we here? What is the meaning of life? Um, and that's a really big, in psychology we call existential question, right? That you start questioning the meaning of your existence, and whether you should be here and not be here, and why are we here. And that brings down to really fully understanding the meaning of what value, or what am I bringing, or what am I doing or serving uh, to humanity. And I think for me, when people ask me that before, I didn't really have an answer. But today, I think I'm beginning to say, hey, thinking about something that's greater than you. And I think that's when you said that to me the first time, that women feel that fulfillment with their children where men don't, and they need to go out there and do something which has that child rearing and creating something. It is something bigger than you. It's life, it's creation
Mm,
itself.
yeah.
It is so fulfilling, because that is the most like that's the greatest expression of one's being, right? Whereas then men need to go out to do that, because um, the woman is the carrier of this creation, whereas men need to go out there into the world and do that creation, and don't feel that level of fulfillment, and need that level of a purpose, um, because that's where their creativity may come in, and that force of creation comes into action, where you're creating something bigger than the self from. That's just a thought that I have, because that's something a lot of clients and people have been coming into this room and really asking, what is the purpose of life?
Yes. Well, many things come up as you're speaking.
Mm-hmm.
Um, well, one thing that comes is the Shiv Channel Singh says, the point of life is to become a point of light,
Mm.
yeah? A light of consciousness, right? And we talk about enlightenment in yoga, no? So this concept of becoming a point of light. And to be a point, you cannot have anything superficial attached to it. A point is a point, is something very small. So you have to let go of the ego and other layers that are on top of that. You have to let go of all that to become a point. I think that's very interesting, nice, beautiful, poetic way to describe it. Um, okay, so as you were speaking intention and purpose, I could imagine how I'm moving forward in a path, in the path that I hope it's going towards my destiny. And intention is the thing that is pushing me forward from behind, the thing that originated this movement. I have the intention to do something, to become something, or to something, no, that is coming from somewhere behind me and is pushing me onward. That's my intention, making me going forward. And my purpose or my objective in life is somewhere where I want to get to. So
Mm,
that's pulling me forward. So I can imagine myself in between a line from my intention towards my purpose, and the intention is pushing me and the purpose is pulling me. And how can they be aligned? Because the intention, we can always adjust it, right? The idea is, can we perceive a clear purpose? Because that's going to be much more important than anything else. This is I always use metaphors. So a useful metaphor is, I'd rather be in the middle of a storm, knowing what's my heading, where am I going to, and having to battle the elements to get there, than rather this. I'd rather have this than having a very calm sea and not knowing where I'm going, right?
mm,
So even if it's hard, even if it's difficult, I'd rather know that I'm moving in a certain direction. That's port. That's where I'm going. That's my destination, and then adjust where I am right now and how can I get there. So my intention can be adjusting. My intention could be to go towards that purpose, and maybe I may have to adjust it somehow, but I will not pay too much attention to that intention. Somehow, for me, I put intentions in the back,
mm,
and I do hold a certain level of intention to go towards my purpose, but I don't worry too much about that, because the road to hell is paved with good intentions. It's not about good intentions. It's just about being aligned with this line that takes me towards my purpose. So I would face it like that. And then if you know where you are going, um, even if you find winds which are blowing you in a different direction, you can always adjust the sails to catch the air and to propel you forward. But if you don't know where you are going, every little wind is gonna blow on you, and then you don't know where you are and you don't know what you are doing, like that. Now, regarding the concept of being a man, with all this, I can totally see what you are saying, that for a woman, it satisfies a lot of the inner nature of the woman, that is the one who holds the birth, and giving birth is something greater than her. And that's great. And I'm a father. I have two daughters, and I feel it is something incredibly beautiful. But it's true, there is something else. It's like there's some other calling. That
mm,
purpose is calling, and is asking you to do something else besides being a father. Yes, I
mm,
am a father, but there's something else in me that wants to also materialize, manifest, more than materialize, manifest something. And I wonder, because in a couple, in a relationship, the man is the seeder, is the
mm,
one who plants the seed in the woman. And I guess that very same quality that is very manly, to want to seed, yeah, to want to plant a seed, not just in the woman, but also in the world. So
mm,
can I leave my seed in the world? Can I leave something that is going to stay behind, that it can serve others, that it can be like I don't know, a nice, beautiful tree that others can take shade in? No, so can you plant something that is going to be of service in some way? And so I guess the nature of the woman is different. It's about receiving a seed, nurturing it, and manifesting something beautiful, and bringing light to something incredible, bigger than her and bigger than the one who gave the seed. So that's a different nature
mm,
already by itself. And yes, we're all souls, and we can all think about manifesting our own soul. But if we put it from the perspective of man and woman, this quality of the man wanting to see it, and so planting the seed in the world, I think that's quite powerful as well.
yeah. And I think it's really important in a world today where we're seeing this sort of breakdown in that understanding of why there is an shift in the general well-being, happiness of men and women,
Yes.
and more people questioning what is the meaning and purpose of life, because that expression of that seed in the world is not fully either being manifested, or in, the intention or the purpose is probably unclear, which is why, at least in our work, we see a lot more existential crisis than we've ever seen before. And to say that it's defined as a inner conflict that involves the question of what is the meaning of life, who am I, and what is my purpose. And we're seeing, it become younger kids asking this question, and not having that congruence within, or not having that alignment. You use the word, to align to that line of where I'm going, and I don't have that clarity, is leading to a lot more anxiety, depression, stress in people, and a genuine unfulfillment and dissatisfaction from life, right? And this becomes a very potent and important conversation about the general dissatisfaction and dysphoria with life, without fully understanding. And possibly, with, as a psychologist, how we work with trying to come into the body and become aligned with who you are, and what is your purpose in this life beyond going to work, beyond, planting the seed of a child, beyond um, any of those roles that we play. What is my expression of I in the world, and what is that seed that I sow in the world, that is an expression of, or an offering of who I am as a soul, as a being, as an essence, as a um, life on this earth in this time. And it would be, and I know that that kind of takes us a little bit, I think psychology struggles because it kind of takes us a little bit into the spiritual
Mm,
conversation around it, and
yeah,
we don't have all the answers. And
yeah.
so, what would you say is the way that one can come in alignment and congruence with the full understanding of my essence, and what am I here, what can I offer, or that alignment of of or what can we do to create some semblance of understanding around this dysphoria and dissatisfaction.
Mm. Yeah, yeah, I can see it so quickly it becomes a spiritual concept, right?
Mm,
Very, very quickly. I would say there is a little difference between meaning and purpose of life.
mm,
Uh, I'm going to improvise a little bit, but I'm feeling that the purpose is the calling, like we were saying. No, what is calling you to manifest? There's something within you that is trying to develop, something that you can become. But meaning, I would say meaning is something that you have to give.
mm,
That's the purpose, I would say, is much more already predefined, and we
mm,
have to figure it out. Like we were using this metaphor the other day about being an acorn and realizing, oh, I'm going to be an oak tree. All right, so that's my purpose, right? That I have to become as great as oak tree as I can. And whatever that means for me, maybe is, strong one that can stand the elements, or maybe it can be very wide that it can shade many people, that it can be under this shade, right? Or it can be very fruitful, very small, but produces a lot of fruit, very creative, that gives a lot to others, right? So you have to define what, that oak tree is successful to you. But the purpose is kind of defined already. That oak tree is an oak tree.
mm,
Well, while meaning of life, I would say, goes more into taking responsibility, actually, what we were talking the other day, because okay, you have one life, and that's the most that is given to all of us. Everybody is given one life. That's it. That's what we have. This is the life that we have. And independent of whether we reincarnate and we have many lives and all that, but in this life right now, this is what we have. You have a certain amount of time. How are you going to utilize that time? And what meaning are you going to give to that time? And that's for everybody to figure out. And there is no, as you're saying, there's no solution. There's no clear answer that we can give. There's nothing that can be universal for everybody, because what's going to be meaningful for one is going to be different for another.
mm,
Maybe somebody will find a lot of meaning in just having a very, very peaceful life, and just going through the world almost without anyone noticing that that person is there. Very humble, very simple life, doing what they have to do, but very peaceful, not, not creating any conflict with anyone, and they will find extreme meaning to that life. Maybe, and maybe for somebody is to create an incredible structure that can support lots of families and aid them financially or whatever. And that's their meaning. So there is no solution to this. There is no one formula that answers all the questions, but we do have a responsibility to that. We have this time, and we have to choose how to utilize this time, and we have to give it meaning.
Right.
Nobody's going to give it meaning for us, and this is where it becomes very challenging, because I think a very, very common experience for people is that when you are young, something that adults often say is that you will understand when you get older, right? Or there's conversations they cannot tell you because you are very small. So when you become older, we will be able to, explain this to you right now. And you spend half of your childhood with this mystery. What will it be that adults know that I don't know? And looking forward to figuring it out, no? And then yeah, and it will make sense when you get older, and you will understand when you get older. And so at some point when you get older, and you are hoping, things will get better, things will make sense, meaning of like I will get it. And then you go through adolescence, and there is a kind of paradox there, because for a moment you spend a number of years throughout the adolescence, a moment in your life that you think you know all the answers.
Mm.
And then you become an adult, and the adolescent brain matures into the adult brain, and then you realize how many of these were actually wrong. And
Mm.
so, okay, so I didn't get it. I thought I did, but I didn't. Then you become an adult. And as you become an adult, they tell you, well, it can't get any better than this. And you say, well, hold on a moment.
Mm.
Wait, up until now, they were telling me, it will make sense. And now it's like, yeah, it cannot get any better. And now you are the adult. You are the one who's supposed to give answers. Now children are asking you, and you don't know it. So you tell them, oh, it will make sense when you grow up, but you don't know it, right? That I think becoming an adult is about realizing that the adults don't know it either, and most people are lost. And then having to take responsibility and say, you know what? Nobody's going to tell me, nobody's going to give it to me. There's no answer, there's no universal answer. I have to give it meaning. I
Mm.
have to choose how to give meaning to my life. Of course, there is a universal thing, which is the spiritual perspective. If we take a step back and we don't just look at one life, and we look from a cosmic perspective, like you were suggesting, right? We are a soul. Okay. So we are a soul, and we are in this lifetime. And we were talking on the other episode about karmas, that we incarnate because we have some karmas and we have some things to learn. And things that we already learned in the next life, they come already learned. So you have kind of gifts already given from previous lives. So, okay, from a cosmic perspective, right now, I'm in this lifetime with these gifts of things that I have already learned, with these challenges of things that I still have to learn, and with this baggage, this karma that I have to let go. I have these gifts are suited perfectly for a certain purpose that I have to figure out. I have to discover that, and nobody really can truly help me to figure that out. And I have to give meaning to this life. So that kind of the little pieces come together, but I don't know. It's not clear, and nobody really tells us this clearly. I think everybody pretends, when we are little, everybody pretends that they know something that we don't know, and as we become adults, then things change a lot.
Yeah. And I think that's possibly also why there comes a time when people are asking themselves, especially post COVID, that what am I really doing?
Yes.
I think COVID was a big time when people started asking, what am I doing all this for? Because all of a sudden, the thing that we're most oblivious, living our life saying, I will die when I'm 80, that changed when COVID happened. And people began to realize, I don't know if that's the truth where you are, but at least here in India, people started quitting corporate jobs, moving into, oh, I always wanted to be a musician. I'm going to go do that now. Or I wanted to always move and live in the mountains. I'm going to go do that now. Because suddenly there
Mm,
was a realization that everything I believed up until now, that life is this long, I'm going to live till 80 is untrue.
Yeah.
And, that death can come anytime. And I need to therefore course correct that this is not whatever I'm doing from my head because I've been told through conditioning, but this isn't the true expression of who I am. So I am not this best oak tree, which is my purpose. I'm an oak tree trying to show up as a banyan tree,
Mm.
right? But I was never meant to be a banyan tree, which is why everything is such a struggle. And if I would really to listen to myself, then what I've always wanted to be is a musician. And so I'm going to express myself now through that is my true expression of who I am and meant to be in this world.
COVID was an excellent reality check, definitely. And I think I always believe there is yin and yang all together. No, every time there is something that seems nasty, it comes with some blessing. So definitely that was an opportunity for many people to question what was happening with their lives. But I also saw the other side.
Mm,
People who were like, wow, lockdown, 3 months. I cannot move from home. I cannot do anything. I cannot go to work. I cannot. Finally, I've been looking forward to just spend 3 months with myself. I'm going to go deep into the teachings. I'm going to be meditating every day and doing my yoga. I'm going to advance so much, whatever advance means for them, right? But then I'm going to make so much progress in my spiritual life. And then after a month or two, I've had people calling me like, I'm going crazy. I don't know what to do with myself. I have all this time that I've always wanted to have time. Now I have all this time and I don't know how to manage.
mm,
And very often in lockdown, they were alone as well because they couldn't, maybe if they didn't have a family, they would be alone, especially young women or young guys. And you're in your flat and now what do I do? And you have all this time and you've always wanted to have time because that's the thing. It's about time, isn't it? This we arrive and we think we have all the time in the world, and as we become adults, then we figure out we need to also, in order to last all our lives, we have to earn some money, so we change time for money. But
mm,
then as time goes on, the older we get, we would pay any money to get more time. It's such a crazy paradox. And when you're in the middle and there's the lockdown and it's like, okay, I have all the time I have, I cannot earn money, I just have to use my time. And yet when you spend some time with yourself, you realize actually maybe you don't like yourself
mm,
because you cannot go out, you cannot do anything, you cannot meet other people, you're alone, and then you realize, what have I become? I don't like my thoughts, I don't like my emotions, I don't like my narratives, right? Like we were saying, and that's a big reality check,
yeah.
which yeah would make people move to the mountains or distract themselves or realize this is not what I want to do, this is not who I want to be, I'm going to quit this job, I'm going to become an artist, or I'm going to be something else. So
Yeah. Yeah. I think what you said earlier, which is, and I just want to summarize that the purpose is to be that oak tree. If you're an acorn, to be the best oak tree. Whereas meaning is different for different people.
right.
And a lot of times you see clashes in that this is what I want to, this is what my life means. And then people are like, no, but that's not the meaning of life. And then we're all sort
Right.
of arguing over what is the meaning of life, and to say, okay, everybody has their own meaning. They're all here to create their own meaning of life. And
Right.
no one meaning is right or wrong, right? And that there is the possible free will to choose what that meaning is for you, and that serves you, and that serves the way in which you live your life or choose to show up in life. But
I feel it's like that they are giving us a lot of free reign.
mm,
This is your life and then here it is, and many people feel that they cannot get out and they have to do what their parents told them to study or to work, or I have to become a doctor, or I have to become a lawyer, or whatever, an engineer, or I have to take care of the shop. No, you don't. No, you don't. But it's scary, and
yeah.
it's easier to do what they tell you to do, and if you don't like it, complain about it, than take responsibility and change it. And yeah, nobody says it's going to be easy, but actually it's very simple. This life is for you and you have to choose and you have to take responsibility. We come back to consciousness and responsibility.
And Also accepting the consequences that come with those choices,
Yes,
right?
and making mistakes.
Yeah, and that's the whole
Yeah.
journey and the flavor of life, is finding that meaning of what you want to give it. And that's much in the work that I do, it's much harder when you come from, and again, I bring it always back to trauma, just because that narrows your ability to see the meaning of life.
Yeah.
When you're looking at from your pain and your suffering, then what is the meaning of life, and what is, and that's where um it becomes this quest of, when will I be happy, right? When will the pain end? When will the suffering end? And that's a big
Well,
question. That,
and if you don't have a purpose, it's much harder to give meaning to that life.
yeah, yeah. And so a lot of the work that we do is to work through the pain, to come closer to one's essence, which is the acorn, right? And say that, okay, fine, if you're this acorn and you're this oak tree, then just be the best oak tree, whatever that is, like, an expression of what an oak tree would be. Um, and that's what we do from a psychology perspective. But from the yogic perspective, how does one arrive at one's purpose? Because it's such, you get these courses, know your purpose in 3 days, or sit with
Right.
me and go and get your purpose in 24 hours. And I wonder, like, um, what are we missing? Is it possible to know that? Is there a technique? Um, because I know that we already know the answer. And the truth is, we need to sit in silence, or to sit with it, to really able to listen to that voice or that calling, and to rise above the fears and all the other things that are either conditioning and all of that, to say, I'm willing to listen to that call. I'm willing, and then the way I see purpose is to become aligned to that call, to become congruent with that call, and show up in that authenticity, and start living the truth of that call. Uh,
Right.
yeah. And which means cutting out distractions and everything else that we've been told we have to do and have to be, and how to show up, and all of those things, and to move away from what is familiar and known, to create that which may be completely unknown and a road less traveled, to express that authenticity. And that's all, that's a choice, that's possible. um and here we use the process of therapy and others. But what would you say about it from the yogic perspective of the purpose, and how does one arrive at that, and how does one listen to that call, and is that call different from the intuition?
Oh dear, you're opening
Sorry.
more and more. You're opening more and more doors. Uh, it, the intuition is certainly one of the greatest ways that we can hear that call.
Mm,
So from the intuition, we can sense our destiny. We can have, because we have the five senses, and this intuition is called the sixth sense. Is
mm,
your capacity to perceive what is extraordinary,
mm,
extra from the ordinary five senses, from the ordinary five elements, what we call no earth, water, fire, air, and ether. So we are
right.
talking about something else, something goes beyond. Now, the call of our soul, that's something that is beyond. It's something spiritual. It's something. It's like the hukam we were talking the other day about divine command, and
Mm,
being capable of aligning with the divine command. That requires a lot of intuition, your capacity to connect to that. So just like the divine command, the call of your soul, you will be much clearer to hearing it when you're aligned with intuition. And intuition is very shy.
mm,
Intuition, as soon as you start doubting it, it closes. It's like a flower that has to be encouraged and caressed, and care. You have to care for it slowly to bloom. And the moment that you doubt it, or you you question, and doubts and questions make it close again. So it takes a lot of faith. Faith is really trusting in the unknown and something beyond. And I'm not talking about blind faith, but
Mm,
having enough faith to open up to something unknown and something um, different from what you would expect. And that would mean also leaving the rational understanding of what is good for you,
mm,
because the mind will want to say that's good or that's bad. That's what the mind likes to do, is judging. So you will think, no, it's not good to be that person, or that tree. That's not a good outcome for me. That's not a good life for me. And that aspect of the mind, the intellect, is gonna create a barrier toward from the intuition. So the intellect creates a barrier to perceive the intuition when we doubt it, and because the intuition is not rational. So the
mm,
moment the intuition wants to speak, the intellect is going to say, no, no, that doesn't make any sense.
mm,
And if we are talking about finding meaning to life, the opposite of meaning is nonsense. So, and who says what is nonsense? When the intellect loves to say this is nonsense and thinks it knows everything, but it's the mind. The mind doesn't know beyond itself. There's body, mind, and there's the spirit.
mm,
So spiritual matters for the mind make no sense.
mm.
So literally, we're trying to find meaning, which means making sense, out of something that if you consider life is more than the material and is something spiritual, that to your rational sense, to the intellectual mind, is not going to make sense. Hopefully, what I said made sense. But
No, absolutely made sense. So just to summarize what you said, so then you can correct me, is that
yeah, yeah,
mind is
yeah.
not able to grasp things that are not rational. And the intuition is not necessarily irrational.
Yes.
And therefore, when the intuition shows up, the job of the intellect is to come in and shut it down because that doesn't make sense. So it cannot be right and doubt.
It's not really its job, but it's what it wants to do.
Right,
The intellect thinks it's in command of
right,
you, because
right.
that's the voice that we associate with what the mind is saying, the intellectual mind. So it says, "Oh, I'm the leader here because you listen to me. You think you are me, right?
Yeah.
We think we are our thoughts." So it thinks it's his job, and he's the boss, and he thinks it's a job to regulate the intuition, but it's not.
Mm, right. And so
But
when,
we should, from the consciousness, we should regulate the intellect. We should say, here in this context, go and apply yourself. That's because we need to reach a logical conclusion, and you are the best for the job.
yeah,
Here, in this matter, we need to perceive intuitively something that is not rational and is from beyond. And we have to allow that. And I'm going to open myself to my faith to access that.
yeah,
And you know it's not incongruent, and it doesn't have to create a conflict. Many scientists are also spiritual, and they have their own faith. But if you ask them, well, how do you demonstrate God? It's fine, I don't have to, right? Many scientists will be fine with not being able to demonstrate God. But that's the thing, we have to create this separation within us as well. There is a logical part and there is a non-rational part, and
right,
they are both fine, yin and yang. We just have to nurture both and know how to address both.
right. And both are needed, and but they're needed in different times. And then sometimes they both are holding each other, but you use consciousness and discernment at that time as to which needs to be the one taking the forefront at that point of time.
That's right. That's the buddhi. You sometimes ask me about the buddhi, and you want me to talk about the buddhi. That's
Yes.
the one part in the mind that, from the yogic perspective, that brings a discernment. And actually, sometimes it's described as intuitive discernment. The
Mm,
one who is intuitively being able to say, you know what? Here we need the intellect. This is a job for the intellect. Go. And another one is like, you know what? I feel like we need a touch of intuition in this point. So that will come from the discernment.
yeah. I want to really point out what I like, what I've noticed you saying is a very almost like a seismic shift in the way we're speaking, because most of us sit there, listen to our thoughts, and say, what my thoughts are saying, then it must be right. So I have to do this. And that's how life goes. And intuition, oh, no, 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 no. It's too much, it's too much, it's too much. Here, there's a seismic shift in that consciousness is in the driver's seat of the decision making. then I'm not this passive recipient of my thoughts. And then the
Correct.
thoughts are telling me to do this, and the thoughts are
Correct.
coming either from the super ego or the ego, which we've talked in the past, from prior
Yes.
conditioning,
Yes.
narratives,
Yes.
core beliefs, subconscious, unconscious. Suddenly, I'm not a passive recipient of all this. I'm this active person in the driver saying, okay, that's what my intellect is saying. I have a choice whether to listen to it in this moment or not.
That's right.
Whereas this is what my intuition is saying, and then I discern what is right in this moment. That's a huge shift of the way we are talking about showing up in this world.
Yes. Yes. And so let me give an example. A young girl. She has been. I'm gonna make her American in my head. I don't know for some reason. But she's in a comfortable family. They have enough money to let her go to college and study a degree, and she will hear, well, maybe I can be an artist,
Mm,
right? And she will go into art, and she will, put all her energy into becoming an artist. Now, what is that coming from?
mm,
We don't know, but it could be both ways. It could be, for example, that she sees her parents, sees how much they have to go to these jobs 9 to 5. She doesn't want that to herself. She feels more like a free spirit, and she would love to be able to just live out of being an artist. It could be just her mind finding this beautiful image of her being an artist and earning her living, but we don't really know. It could
mm,
be that it's not in her destiny. And actually, when she comes out of her family, if the family don't keep supporting her, she's going to find herself at some point that she cannot live economically. She just cannot pay her rent, pay her bills from being an artist. And so the image, it was a fantasy. And fantasies are created by the mind. So
mm,
her mind was like, I don't want that. What I want is I want to be an artist, but actually it was a fantasy, not realistic. And she had these expectations, and at some point she's going to be disappointed, and she may fight against the world, against the family, against whatever. Or uh, the world expects you to be a functionable, a piece of the society that functions and works and produces and so on. And she is an artist in her soul, in her deepest, core. And in spite of everything that is telling her to do something fruitful with her life, whatever that means, she feels a calling, an intuitive calling to become an artist,
mm,
right? So we have the same girl. From the outside, we see her trying to make these choices in life and say, I'm going to become an artist. And how do we know that it's not the one or is the second? We don't
mm,
really know. But the,
mm,
the best thing that we can do from the outside is to talk to her and listen.
mm,
And when we listen, we can appreciate, is the intellect speaking
mm,
and it's a fantasy, or is the intuition speaking, and that's a calling, and that's something to nurture and figure it out. And you know what, it may not be easy to support herself, but if that's the calling, that's the destiny, even if she struggles, she will find meaning in that life. So from the outside, you were asking me before about the yogic perspective, talking to somebody who is in that position, a young, 19, 20-year-old girl who is trying to figure out about life, then I would listen from that perspective. Is that intellectual? Is that intuitive? And is there harmony between the different aspects of herself, or is she suppressing one?
right. And I think I like that word. So I've been reading a lot about purpose, right? And words like congruence, alignment, calling, intuition, having, the courage. And then there are qualities that support your ability to live your life of purpose. The first and the most important being your ability to listen, right? Stillness, listening, kind of just even able to listen to yourself. You're not able to listen to another either, right?
Yes. Yes.
Developing these skills to listen to what my intuition is saying, and then to discern whether then to have the courage and all of that to say that. And then when I hear that calling, which is also what I'm hearing you say, is the intuition, Intuition and calling is kind of the same.
No, the intuition hears the calling.
Okay, the intuition hears the call.
Correct.
The call is that of the soul, yeah,
Yes, it comes from the soul or the spirit or
the
yeah,
spirit.
yeah.
And then
Destiny,
are
you know, you can use different words, but is the intuition what allows you to perceive that?
right, right.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
so you're using a different lens altogether, right? You're using your sixth sense to listen to this calling that is it's out, like you said, out of the ordinary from the thing. And then that puts you on this path of destiny, right? And then you have, of course, the courage to continue. Like you said, winds may come and you continue. You have the commitment to go by it, and then you show
yes,
up, you
exactly.
keep up, and you're kept up. And
And it's a scary
and
and
yet,
it's scary as well, yeah, because you may feel free, but then so many possibilities are open, and it's scary. And will I be able to manifest it or not? And so, and fear triggers a very basic fight or flight mechanism, which is going to close your heart, and that's going to close the intuition. So you
yeah,
have to battle between opening your heart to receive the intuition, and the intuition of the something unknown is making you scared, and then you want to close. So it's an incredible, very exciting journey. Yeah,
it can be very adventurous, right? Like it's like walking through the jungle and there'll be different tigers and bears, and then
yeah,
do I keep going? What do I do? And then the beautiful word that you use is the inner harmony. And that harmony is such a beautiful word because I know how much of conflict I've lived with internally, trying to
right,
question the meaning of life and the purpose, and try to make sense for me of it intellectually, and I never could.
right,
And I bring it back again from a psychology perspective because it is a psychologist speaking to a yogi. The
yeah.
psychologist, right? When you get hurt in life, trauma, childhood wounds, bullying, all of that, your heart shuts down. You shut down your heart, right?
Right.
Because you're afraid of pain, you're afraid of getting hurt. And then life just seems like there's nothing to live for. There's
When
no,
when the heart shuts down, the intuition closes. It's like the flower closing.
yeah. And then all I'm doing is living in the mind. If I don't have an intuition, I can't listen to the call of my soul. I can't see that I'm an acorn. I'm only listening to what's in the mind. And the mind has its own, little landscape. You have an inner critic, you have all of these sort of things. And then life seems,
And because I don't like that, sorry to interrupt, I distract myself from what my mind is saying. So when I'm alone, I will put the tablet or TV or something to distract me from what my mind is saying. Because when I hear my mind, I don't like that, right? So we are fighting against ourselves to go into the mind, but we don't like the discourse of the mind. So we go into outside to entertain ourselves, to social media, whatever, just to avoid looking in. That's when the COVID comes, and then you find yourself in a lockdown with yourself, and then you realize that you don't like yourself.
yeah, yeah. And how do you like yourself when your heart is shut down? There's no love to give yourself anyway. And then
Yes,
there is no heart openness to listen to the intuition, to listen to the call of your destiny.
right.
And you're stuck questioning the meaning and purpose of life. And I'm thinking here, oh, what is what then is the possibility for psychology to heal those hearts and those wounds and those to bring people back into a space into being courageous to open the heart and listen to the intuition to
I don't
heal.
know. I don't know, but I mean, psychology accessing through the mind is so powerful. I'm surely she has. I mean, the mind has an
I
incredible
like that.
because in Spanish mind is female, so
Okay.
la mente. So the mind has an influence on the heart as well, and
Mm.
so there's got to be a gateway to access how we feel about the heart, and also particularly because most of the things that we feel are wrong in the heart are actually our mind is thinking that that is wrong. So it's actually dealing with the mind is going to help to heal the heart. But I can imagine that there is a limit to how much you can do speaking to the mind to
Oh, we
heal the
don't speak
heart.
the mind anymore.
Yeah, but from psychology, I mean.
Yeah, even as psychology, like I said, today in the world of trauma, they're going all into the body.
Right.
They've understood that the mind has its own nature, and the nature of the mind is going to be to either, you've created all these protective and defense mechanisms, but we're not questioning the mind anymore. We're saying, why did that need to be happened? And when you take those
Mm,
away and we address some parts of what happened, that cause those defenses and for us to shut down the heart, then the mind makes sense.
mm,
Because the mind is trying to make sense of the world that it therefore cannot see from all its senses, right?
right.
And that's what at least the world of trauma and somatic work has understood, is that you can keep arguing with the mind and its perceptions, but then you're going nowhere, versus really going into the body and seeing what those beliefs are, and releasing. That brings you home closer to the to the true self, to the essence of who you are, and that the mind can never fathom. And the
Right.
mind keep trying to pull you back out of that because it's too afraid. It's always needs to be in control, it needs to be right, it needs to know, it needs certainty, it needs all of those things.
Yes. Yes.
Whereas the essence or the true self doesn't need that. It knows. It has that level of neutrality in it that doesn't need to know. And so all of these things that we're seeing with an increase in anxiety and post-traumatic stress post-COVID, um, it's being addressed largely outside the mind and into the body, and largely with connecting back to essence, connecting back to who would you be without these labels that the mind has that taken on.
I would also like to say something nice about the mind, because because when we go into this conversation, it's easy to feel like the mind is my problem. All the problems are in the mind, and there's something wrong with the mind, and in yoga we say, well, I think I've heard this saying with the mind, but it could be about the ego. Give the ego an honorable way to die.
Mm,
So it's at some point that part of our mind that is shutting us down and making us feel low, it wants to stop, but it's like there is a pride in there as well. So can we, if we can offer an honorable exit in a way that the mind feels that it proud of herself, let's say. Again, I'm using the her pronoun here with the mind. But yeah, if we can allow the mind to feel proud in the way it is serving the soul, that's going to be much, much easier and helpful than fighting against it.
mm,
Because a lot of people, when they face some sort of, we're talking in the context of trauma and therapy, they face this wounds and scars in my mind as something that I have to fight against. And I have to fight against my mind. Is troubling me, is worrying me, is creating all these monsters. And it's the problem of the mind. The mind is the evil one. And that's going if we put the mind in that place, it's gonna fight against you and it's gonna possibly win. So rather than this, we have to make the mind our ally. And so if we come back to the question you asked me before about from the perspective of yoga, I have another ingredient that could help here, bringing it to the context of trauma and how to move on. And is we talked about the forgiveness some time ago in another episode, and we were talking about in forgiveness. One of the things that you do is um, uh, accept whatever had to happen. It helped you to become who you are now. And I understand that many people say, well, I don't like who I am now. So why should I accept that? Right. But uh, part of the things that is going to help you to accept who you are now is to realize what you gained. So
mm,
here we come into the concept of the virtues, which I think it was in the title of also of the podcast, because we everybody has some virtues. Everybody has some gifts.
Yeah.
And this is something that, especially for people who are struggling with themselves and self-love, and
Mm.
that's how many people is that? I mean, that's probably most of the planet, right? Struggling to love ourselves. We have to start from a place that we accept already. And something is like, well, yeah, I don't like who I am right now, but you know what? Yeah, I have a good voice, right? Or yeah, I can dance, or whatever. I am good at drawing, or I'm good at ordering people around, even if it's that, I, I can debate anyone and win, whatever. There is, everybody has some high qualities. And if we start from there, okay, good. You like that about yourself. Okay, that's great. And figure out, first of all, was that a gift already given to your life? And if so, that's going to be a clue of your meaning, of not meaning, sorry, of your purpose, because that gift is aligned with your destiny. So whatever is given to me in this life is going to be helping me serve others in my destiny. So that's great. Or that's first. If so, let me pick it up. If you figure out something in you that is like a gift or a virtue, there's two possibilities. Either it was already here when you arrived to this lifetime, which means that it is pointing in the direction of your purpose. So that's great, and we can nurture that. Or you developed it. And if you develop it, you learn it through going through some karmas. So by accepting that thing that you developed it and understanding that you got that thanks to having to go through everything that you went, it's going to help you to forgive whatever had to happen so you can be here. So one is pointing towards the direction, the destiny, and the other one is helping you to heal what happened so that you can also move towards the destiny. So either way, noticing which qualities are these virtues or gifts that you already have, it's already a good step in the right direction to move towards the purpose. And then from the perspective of yoga, we understand that there is 10 spiritual principles and 10 spiritual virtues and vices as well. So learning which are these 10, understanding which are not you are naturally more inclined to align with and which are more challenging for you, then you know where you have to work on.
Mm.
Maybe it's humility is not a problem for you, but you know what? When it comes down to equality, then you have challenges. Okay, then I know where I have to work on. And maybe you don't know the purpose yet, but you know part of the purpose to go, like part of the things you have to deal with to go in the direction of the purpose.
Mm. Yeah.
Is everything okay?
Yes. And when you talk about virtues and that self-love, that really brought up something for me in this moment, which is how many of us, like you said, really love ourselves or really take the time to see these these strengths and these virtues and these ways in which we can actually honor the journey that we have been through. Most of us want to reject our journey and wish we didn't have that journey.
Yes.
And
Yes.
in that, we're really rejecting ourselves,
Right.
rejecting our life. And the purpose, I think, so much is to align and accept um, the existence of life itself and all that we have experienced consciously or unconsciously.
And the training we went through, no, if we consider it was a training, look, it's already over. You can just accept it now and move on, or you can, keep your life. Oh, why did I have to go through that? Okay, it's done. You did it. Well done. You're on the other side. You can keep lamenting and going down the hole, or you can just let it go and move on. And I understand it's easier to say than to do it. For somebody who is already there, it's going to be very challenging. But okay, we have tools. We can work on the body, like you were saying before. We can work on the breath. We can do some therapy. We can reframe our history. We can rewrite our memories and our narratives. And if you need help, you can go to a professional to help you. But that's the thing. It's already past. Whatever happened, it's already in the past.
Yeah. And so the past is we do bring it into the present. However, to able to continue to look towards the purpose and keep walking
Correct.
path and continue to listen to the call of the soul, of the purpose with our intuition. And all three need to be aligned. It's not, I remember you said, let me say something nice about the mind. But to walk the path, we need mind, body, and soul.
Yeah.
Neither one can be left out along the way. For us to show up fully, 100% committed, to listen to the call and show up.
Yeah, yeah, you could say that, the body is the vessel, is the ship. We were using this metaphor to go towards that's your destination. I have to get to that port. And you're gonna go through the challenges, which is the storm in the middle. And the mind is gonna be the engine or your capacity to move the sails. A good mind is gonna help you to move the sails in the right angle so you can catch the winds and propel you forward. But yeah, you take care of the body, you take care of the mind, and you know where you are aligned to. But in this image, nowhere in there is your past.
Mm.
You notice? Who cares which port did you leave from? Who cares where did you pass through? You know where you are going, you know what's in the middle, you know what you have to do to get there. Stop looking back, start looking forward, because that's the direction you have to move. But of course, if somebody doesn't have a purpose, if they don't see it clearly, then that's when you say, well, where do I go? What's the direction that I'm going to take? And when you are in the middle of the storm, it's harder to see the purpose because you don't see the stars, you don't see the sun, you don't have any navigational, you may have as many charts as you want, but you don't know, you don't have any keys to direct you in which way you're going, no? You don't have a compass, maybe it's not working. The inner compass would be also thing, no? That's something in you that is pointing in the right direction, but that's not working. I don't see the sun, I'm in the shadows. This is the problem when you are right in the middle of the dark situation, no? In a deep depression, or you are in a hole that you don't know how to get out of.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So I'm going to end today's podcast. Thank you, Ardashi, with this I think very important thing that it doesn't matter. It is you may be in the dark spot and you may be in the storm, but to always remember the compass is within. And we welcome and invite people to consider and explore that compass.
Yes. And have everything aligned and working well. Yeah, the body, the mind, everything has to be in harmony, like you were saying about the harmony. So everything, intellect and intuition, and everything in harmony inside.
Thank you so much, Ardaas ji, for being that guide on our quest for purpose and meaning today. And thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. And we will see you next Friday at 5:30 p.m. India time and 1:30
Uh,
Portugal time.
12, 12.
12 o'clock
No?
Portugal time. Sorry, daylight saving.
Yeah.
Uh, See you for next week for our final episode of season 1. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Satsevan. Thank you, everyone.